Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Dr. Abir Ray, a CEO of Expression Networks. He's also a professor at Cornell and a national leader in spectrum tech and defense innovation. I'm honored to have you today, sir.
No, thank you, Danny. I'm honored to be on your podcast. Sorry for the varied humans and cats that are roaming around in the background, but I appreciate you accommodating the time.
Yeah, I also have a cat who likes to jump on my table every time I sit here, so don't worry about that. Well, so from what I understand, you are one of the top people to talk about EMS in America, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that, what you do in this sphere, and what is the EMS for the listener who doesn't know.
Sure. So EMS is electromagnetic spectrum. I actually work with the federal government on multiple levels with the electromagnetic spectrum, whether that's spectrum management and operations as part of the support that my company provides to the DoD, or spectrum management and reallocation that we do for the civilian side of the U.S. federal government with NTIA. I sit on a board at FCC, so we look at actually how AIML and will impact communications. And I run a subcommittee as part of that on the 5G RAN, and how the FCC, what guidance the FCC should have to make sure that AI is used in a responsible fashion in communication. So I'm deeply involved in all aspects of how how federal use of spectrum operates. And then I used to be on the board of the National Spectrum Consortium, which is a public-private partnership with the U.S. government, with the major telcos, with companies like Nokia and Ericsson, just looking at all of these spectrum-related issues and problems within the U.S.
And how long have you been working in this area, in this field?
About 20 years.
Yeah. All right. So you seem to be involved in many, many different things, and one of which is being a professor at Cornell. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So at Cornell, I'm a professor, an assistant professor. There's the cardinality of rank within professorship. So I'm the very first level, and I teach in the systems engineering department. So I teach a course on digital twins. So those are the digital representation of physical systems. Um, because of my work with DoD, somewhat of an expert in the space. So this is my first year teaching. I just finished my doctorate like a year past. So Cornell was kind enough to take me on in their systems engineering department. And the department only has graduate students, so I have PhD and master students in my course. During the fall, actually, I'll be teaching cybersecurity for physical systems, and from a systems engineering standpoint. So systems engineering is really interesting. It's the overall encompassing engineering discipline that looks at how like design and process needs to be involved in any engineering field. So whether that be civil, structural, mechanical, computer science, it's the cross cutting engineering field. The majority of my background is in software, but really the scale of systems that I've managed, requires like a comprehensive understanding and view of systems engineering.
So, what made you decide to do this part time, from what I understand, teaching, while also running the company, being the CTO?
No, certainly, I feel like it's a bit of a mental challenge, right? Something that a lot of my work, though it's technical, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and being in academia helps me sort of release my mind, my creative juices, work a part of my brain that I don't really get to do from 9 to 5. Um, because again, running a company, we have just shy of 200 employees. There's a lot of administrivia, and you get away from that the core technical vein that is part of my DNA. So the teaching allows me to do that.
Hmm. And how do you, just from the personal standpoint, how do you combine running the company, doing teaching at Cornell, family? How do you manage all this?
Uh, I don't sleep a lot, so I think you have to squeeze those hours in the day somehow. So I usually get up between 5 and 6, and I don't go to bed until close to midnight. So that's how you squeeze those hours in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Well, you mentioned AI, and I'm curious to learn about your perspective on AI and national security, since this is obviously this technology has been there for a while, but in the past few years, it became more consumer facing. Like everyone uses AI in one form or another nowadays. So, what is your perspective on AI and national security in today in 2025?
I mean, it's going to be the same as AI in general society, right? The automation of a lot of menial tasks right now. The U.S. DoD has a large, personnel component, and AI is going to help automate, a lot of things that required manpower in the past. So you can do more with fewer people. It'll also, in terms of decision support, that's going to be huge. So a lot of times it's the human decision that needs to be made. So you have analysts, um, you know, um, uh, looking through different kinds of intelligence. In this case, AI can be running all the time. It can scale up and scale down as needed. So there's you're able to leverage things that humans can't do at scale, right? Like you need the DoD I think has 800,000 employees. AI is a force multiplier, so you could probably do the same on a lot of analytical tasks. You'd have a tenth of the personnel, maybe less. So I think that's going to be transformative. And then as it comes to making real time decisions and strategy, that's something that like algorithmic warfare essentially is something that you'll hear more and more about, whether that's the attacking cyber systems or even real world scenarios. But you'll have robots, you'll have UAVs, UASs, actually doing the engagement rather than human on human.
Yeah, yeah. I think the latter is a little bit more exciting than automating bureaucracy, like the AI robots that fight each other. But curious to see where you stand on the danger of advancing this technology. Obviously, if AI has access to guns, to
Yeah, no, I mean,
drones.
certainly, right. So we don't have general AI yet, but when there is general AI, and a lot of these, a lot of AI is not understood, right? It's like the emergent properties, right? No different than life itself. You know how how do single cell organisms in aggregate, right? Create these beautiful multi-celled organisms, plants, animals. How does it create both sapient and sentient beings? So emergent properties of complex systems. That's what AI is, right? And so your computers are digital analogs to neurons. programming language is no different than DNA. And so at some point where you have this emergent property at scale, where genetic algorithms and other things can combine and grow and build things that are beyond human comprehension, and you get general AI, um, you don't know what that might lead to, right? If you create an artificial conscious system, and not bounded by human factors, uh, I mean, you don't. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but you really don't know what would happen. They would probably look at the world today and see that a lot of the conflict, a lot of the strife is inefficient, right? Why do humans argue about the things they do, and why do they waste energy? It's almost like the entropy of humanity is extremely inefficient, and something like general AI, would most likely optimize for that. And if it's out there and it has, control of weapon systems, has control of, um, you know, digital infrastructure that we rely on, I don't know what type of decisions it would make. I mean, it sounds like Skynet and RoboCop, but in truth, it's probably not too far from what general AI would think of the world today.
Hmm. And there is, there's this new Cold War that seems to be starting between the U.S. and China, and it seems like there is this the new kind AI reminds me of the atomic bomb, and whoever figures it out quicker might have a strategic advantage over the other. So I'm curious to see, um, or to learn from you. From one hand, we have the risks with developing this general AI because it can um, overrun our systems and take control of the military of whatever it has access to. But on the other hand, we don't want to stop the development and R&D on AI because the adversaries, they might take advantage of that. So where do you see this balance for for America or the West in general to have in this particular time and technology?
Yeah, I mean, it's so nascent, right? Like, I think the problem is that the fate of the world is always left to the hands of few men, right? And whether that was World War II and the Manhattan Project, and with such great power, you had responsible, moral men who understood the gravity of what they've done. Um, Oppenheimer, etc. So, when it comes to AI, even in the beginning, Sam Altman from OpenAI, to quote, he wanted to start the Manhattan Project for AI. So understanding that you're when you create general AI, it's almost the equivalent of the atomic bomb, in terms of whether, like, that such an invention, could be the end of humanity as we know it, of civilization. Um, you know, there's responsibility that's needed, like guardrails. But that being said, it's a race. It's the same as the space race, same as the race to the atomic bomb, and we need to pour national resources, not just capital from the private sector, but national resources into making sure that we succeed. There's the and a lot of what's going to get to general AI is based on scale, right? Those emergent properties, just like an LLM, neural networks. The concept of those neural networks, came out in the 50s and 60s, and they actually built the first neural nets to, like, drive cars and to do what an LLM does. And so the two inventions within even that space, right? So what we have in AI 2.0, had to do with the attention function that Google, wrote about, and then with AlexNet, which was, based on a pretty pretty public competition. And AlexNet worked because of scale. Like at the end of the day, because you could train, you could use those transformers in parallel and train a scale, uh, and you had X number of features, etc. You had these emergent properties that you didn't have at lower scale. No different than life. Again, life itself, right? Like you have single cell, like multi-celled amoebas. They only uh, they only interact in the world in a certain way. But the differentiation between those cells and the cells in our brains to have this conversation, it's just it's a scale thing. It's not the fundamental technology is no different. So if those resources are put in and you have this scale, um, I think that's where you'll find those emergent properties to get to general AI, and then once you're there, yeah, I mean, who even knows what the next steps are? I think it's beyond our comprehension.
Hmm. So you're saying that it's all about scale. What about the algorithm though? Because there are obviously a lot of different machine learning algorithms, and LLMs is just one of the
Yeah,
implementations.
there are efficiencies in algorithms, right? Like if you look at what DeepSeek did, DeepSeek ended up using a network of experts. So instead of having a single generally trained LLM, a GPT, it had a network of GPTs that were all domain specific, and therefore, it was a more efficient training. They also leveraged, you know, th- they leveraged mathematical efficiencies, right, in linear algebra to do those multiplications and calculations that you do at each step of your transformer, within your GPT. So there are definitely algorithmic like efficiencies. If you look at biological systems, you'll see that in a way, like we are a system of experts, right? Like we only use, I think, single digit to like low double digit of our gray matter, like in our brain, to actually do everything we do. Um, but then, you have specialization in different parts of your brain, and so it ends up being like a network of experts, and then because a transformer can be trained on anything, a little bit like your neurons. Like if you have some capacity that is diminished, within your mind, you can retrain other parts of your brain to provide that function. So there's there eventually will be a lot of analysis in biological systems because you have billions of years um, uh, Darwinism that have created efficiencies in storing memory or being able to do types of pattern recognition. So there are things that a GPT can do much better than a human will ever be able to do. But there's a type of difference reasoning that a human can do that it requires a lot of compute. So there's going to be this merger of the efficient systems in biology along with computing systems, right? To me, to build the next thing, it's not going to be all in silicon. And it's not going to be it's going to be some hybrid.
Mhm. So once we hit general AI and it becomes way smarter than we are. Uh, do you I understand your perspective correctly that at that point it will continue evolving exponentially beyond our comprehension and then it's over for us?
Well, I don't know if it's over for us, right? But I think it all depends on the guardrails of the systems that we build. Like at the end of the day, in the beginning with general AI, we still provide like the facilities, the compute, everything else, right? Until there's some integrated system of robots that are controlled by some general AI. I don't think that fear exists, but there is, if our weapon systems, if the majority of our systems become autonomously controlled, then general AI can be a threat.
Hmm. Got it. Do you have any predictions on when we're gonna hit this date?
Probably in the next 5 to 10 years, right? I don't think it'll be sooner. There's some additional advancements that need to happen in computing to get there. And again, it's not just a one day you have general AI and the day before you didn't. It'll be incremental progress.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. Well, so nothing's completely lost. Something is still in our control, even if we are heading towards this um, great technological advancement, which is a great insight. Thank you for sharing your perspective.
Of course,
Um, I want to shift a little bit towards your experience running the company as the CEO, CTO, maybe some lessons that you've learned as your company grew, as you hired more people. Um, do you have any perspectives on leadership and how to efficiently and effectively lead such an organization?
no, sure. So I mean, at every different stage, right? Like when you have 5 employees, it's different than when you have 20 employees. Different than when you have 50 employees. Different than when you have 200 employees. I feel like I've always rolled up my sleeves, and I'm a bit of a servant leader. That's just a style that works for me, just as given the kind of person I am. And if I were to look at um, what what would be needed at the 500-person level or the 1,000-person level, it evolves. So I personally am not like as a, as a parent or as a employer or what have you. I'm I like to nudge people into what they should be doing, right, rather than micromanage them. And I think as you scale up, you don't have the time to nudge people and expect them to do what you need them to do. You have to be quite a bit more explicit, and then you need to be able to delegate and appropriately. Scale requires a leader to groom and find other leaders, right? That they can have underneath them to then scale. Um, so, that being the case, I think that's the next bit of learning. I started this when I was in college. I've never worked for anyone else, so it's less and less discovery learning as I get older, but there's still always there's always some element of the new, and I try to understand what others have done because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel for what works, but then also merge that with my personal instincts, which I think I've gotten better at. In the past, we've had C-level employees, co-equal to me, but have had more experience doing this job like at other companies, and I've realized that experience doesn't always mean that it's better, right? So I've learned to become the arbiter of what's right or wrong for my business.
Hmm. Do you have some mistakes that in a major way shape your approach to leadership or to business in general, running the company? Any if you can give an example of a story of you maybe even failing with something that taught you
No,
an important lesson.
definitely. We had a chief operating officer like 6 years ago, and he had worked for us for 4 years. Come from a top four consulting firm, and frankly, just did not know what he was doing. Didn't know how to scale a business. Didn't know how to bring business in, and because of his experience, I was deferential to him on sort of core decisions, and to the point where it almost made us insolvent. So that being the case, I ended up taking over all those functions, firing the gentleman, taking on growth capital from a private equity fund, and sort of forging my own path. And that was the beginning of our quite a bit of growth for us. So at the end of the day, like that, all failures can teach you something positive, and I think here that was the case, and again, it's taught me that I should trust my instinct, my gut and my instinct a lot more than I would have done previously. I would have been a bit more deferential, and now I feel comfortable in my boots.
Nice, nice. Appreciate you sharing that. And as the thing that I like to end the podcast with, I'll let you give a piece of advice to a listener, let's say someone in their 20s, passionate about entrepreneurship or doing something that you're doing, but back in the day. Do you have any pieces of advice that you want to share with them?
In chaos, there's opportunity, right? So, when I first started this, it was the original .com boom. There's a lot of chaos. There was opportunity. I was too young to exploit it. Now that I'm older, I am able to look at chaos not in a nervous fashion, but as if I were to really focus and understand, what I need to, some goal that I want to accomplish, like in that chaotic environment, that I'd be able to exploit that to my own gain. So I think, with AI being here and at this scale, it feels very chaotic. Um, the world markets, the economy seems quite chaotic. But that being the case, if you really think about what you're good at, what you're passionate about, you can find opportunity in the chaos. And the entrepreneurs that succeed are very astute and find that opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah, this is something that I've read about lately. That I don't want to confuse any names, but I think it was Rockefeller who made his fortune basically out of the chaos,
Yeah,
like you're describing. So, some people they fold, some people use the either chaos, adversity, whatever it is, as an opportunity to grow or to find something that will benefit them.
no, absolutely.
Sure. Well, it was my pleasure to have you today, sir. Thank you for sharing all of your lessons and perspectives. And yeah, great episode. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.